I'd like to start off this episode with a question for my co-commentators here. It's all going to revolve around star players. So some have been moved out of the megastar list, like Cindy and Bomber and Creek and Deeproot, and others have been added in, like Hathark, Ivan the Animal Death Drought. Do we think the stars taken out, at least for now, should stay out of the megastars list? Do we think there should be some thrown in? Are there stars that are not listed as mega that should be? What do we think, guys?
I'll jump in first with this one. I honestly do believe that they've done some decent work in cleaning up the leagues that different teams can play for and which star players are eligible for. So we don't have to suffer Griff halflings running around the place all the time anymore. But instead, we've got a another threat for halfling and gnome teams with Jordell Freshbreeze. Now, in the previous edition, Jordell and Jeremiah Cool were both exclusively Elven Kingdoms League players, and being fairly expensive at that, it's not going to be unbalancing to the game. Jordell playing for halflings and gnomes is a serious threat that needs to be considered, and I think he should be nominated for the Megastars list.
Yeah, I think one of the big things is that, and I think we've covered this on the podcast before, is that I think that there needs to be something a little bit more granular than just regular star players and mega star players. In fact, I really like the way Millsy kind of made a really simple decision to have regular star players, superstar players, and mega star players. I really liked that extra category. I mean, you could possibly go even more granular than that, but I think actually just those three categories or three tiers of star players is not a bad one. And I wonder whether Ivan the Animal Death Shroud, yeah, I take the point that he's probably more than a regular star player, but I don't know that he's quite mega, at least not in my book. Hathark, 50-50. I'm okay with him being in. I actually think there's a category of star player that I think needs to be at least superstar, if not mega, and that's the ones with they come with bullseye. So we're talking Ripper and Deeproot and Morg. I actually wonder whether they need to be there. So while Deeproot, I can understand why he's not a megastar because he doesn't have Mighty Blow +2 anymore because nobody does. Whether he still qualifies because he can unseat the ball carrier from squares away on a 4+ and he gets a reroll. Like, that's phenomenal. Oh, sorry, Deeproot doesn't get a reroll. He gets fumbles mean the player automatically lands or something, doesn't it?
They land safely, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So sorry, it's Morg that gets the reroll. But yeah, yeah, I think those three need at least. I reckon they need to be that superstar category, just because, yeah, just the ability to target players with that bullseye trait is very, very powerful. I think there are some stars that need to be full on mega. Dribble and Drool, I think, are still in that category. And I think they've really boosted 3-star players. Grack and Crumbleberry, I reckon's got to be mega. Scrog, I reckon's at least got to be a superstar, if not a mega. And I reckon Zolcath, the way his special rule is written, is probably mega as well.
Yeah, yeah, fair point. I gotta jump in with kind of what Wilt was saying. Like I do love the fact that stars have changed, specifically which stars can go into which teams, because I think it was just a bit too much open slather in the 2020. So now they've curtailed that down a little bit. We might finally get to see, people like Jeremiah Cool and Jordell actually hit the pitch now that they don't have to be on an elf team, which could never afford them.
Jeremiah still does. Jeremiah's still Elven Kingdoms only.
Oh, there you go. But how often are we going to see him on there because of, the elf team costing so much? But I think, look, I agree with everything both of you have said. I still think it's a little early. TOs are going to get their heads around, you know, tiering. They're going to get their heads around TV value with these. So whether or not we see some of these that we think, well, that might be a megastar, but the fact that he costs too much or the TOs tier them a certain way may never get used. So in that case, you might need to drop them back to like a superstar status. But if there's one star player at the moment that's sort of not so much irking me, but I think it's just far too good, and I haven't seen it in action, so I can't talk specifics on it. But it's the Grack and Crumbleberry. The ability that Grack can just pick up Crumbleberry with the ball and walk him forward and plonk him down and go and do his thing. I think it's broken. I haven't seen it in action, so I'd like to hold off. Making a full decision on that until I see a few of these in actions. But I do definitely think that the steps they've taken so far with star players is in the right direction.
I think the only real concern with Dribble and Droll is that it's unclear exactly where the extra +1 is supposed to be used.
Yeah, according to the NAF, it's on injury.
And that's a choice that they've made, but that's not specifically clear in the wording of the rules.
No, it's true. And I mean, I guess until GW come up with their own designer's commentary document that deals with that, we'll have to run off what the NAF says. I really think, unless you particularly want to rule it differently as a tournament organizer. But what about the secret weapons? We didn't talk about Cindy and Bomber and Creek. They've come off the megastar list. Now, Cindy and Bomber have done the opposite of what most stars have done. Most stars are now cheaper. Most stars actually come down in price. And Cindy and Bomber and Creek are some that have gone the other. Oh, I don't know about Creek, but Cindy and Bomber have definitely gotten more expensive. Are they out of the megastar list now that they're more expensive? I think also Bomber Dribblesnot lost a point of passing stat. It went from 3+ to 4+.
No, Bomber's still 3+.
Yeah, I think the things with both of those, like I applaud the fact that they actually went up to 100K. That would have been the simplest thing they could have done back in 2020 was to just up the price of them. But to keep them both as where they are. So you look at Cindy went up to 100K. In order to keep Cindy in, any team that's got that needs to pay 100K for a bribe. Whereas Bomber, in order to keep him in, they only have to pay 50K for a bribe. So the price on Cindy is effectively 200 if you want it for a couple of drives, whereas the price on Bomber is only 150. So not sure where that's going to fit into the mix of tournaments and how well they perform and how much they're taken.
I'm happy with Cindy being 100K because they actually added an extra nerf onto her special ability to throw 2 bombs in one turn. If she does it, she actually gets sent off on a 4+ immediately after performing the action. So I'm perfectly fine with it being 100K, having that extra nerf on top for her special ability. I would have been happy with 150K and then they wouldn't have needed to do that. Bomber Dribblesnot is actually 80K at the moment, and again, I think he should be 150 minimum because then, as you say, with a bribe, he becomes 200, and that's a bit more fair and balanced. Krieg did go up 10K value to 180, which still seems pretty reasonable because it's basically a built-in bribe. But he's still more expensive than Fungus the Loon and just buying extra bribes anyway. And I don't really see the benefit of him over Fungus.
Did he drop a movement point?
What was he before?
5, I think.
Then if he was 5 before, he's only 4 now. So yeah,
Yep.
can confirm he's
Cool.
dropped 1 movement point, gone up 10K. And I still don't see the value of taking him over Fungus the Loon and just more bribes.
Well, I guess he comes with a built-in bribe thanks to his special rule.
Yeah, but for the exact same money, you can get 2 bribes instead of 1, and Fungus.
Do you have any other advantages over Fungus?
No, Fungus gets to re-roll his direction once per turn. That's it.
Yeah, which is pretty good. He's got prehensile tail. Not that you'd pick him for that.
He's got armor 10+, not that it's relevant.
No, doesn't matter at all, does it?
It never comes into play, so it's not relevant at all.
Unless you tried to stab him, I suppose. But
True.
I
That would
don't
be the
know.
one advantage, yeah.
I don't know of how many people would like to put their stabber right beside Fungus Saloon because I could see him just turning around and going whack.
I'll take a 2-die uphill wrestle with an attacker though.
Oh, I wrestle ball and chains down all the time. It's the most fun ever.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, I guess that's the run of star players. Do we think we're going to see more star players in third season edition? Do you think we'll see the same number? Do you think we'll see less?
I think, well, one of the biggest things, and most people have mentioned already, is that we didn't get to see star players in the latest books that came out for for Tomb Kings and Bretonians in their Spike magazine. There was no star players in there, and we were all anticipating, seeing something in there at least. So I don't know. I think in the back of my head they're going to wait for a like a Death Zone supplement or something like that and release a few more. But who knows how GW corporate want to do this thing? Do they just this month we'll throw a coin into the air and see if we do something, or do we hold out longer? I think we're just clutching at straws trying to figure that sort of thing out.
I think the main reason is it's just that they don't have the models ready for them yet, I would imagine, and that they don't want to put rules out for a model for a character that they don't have a model for.
Yeah, which is fair enough too.
Hey, look, I just wanted to just move on from talking about star players to talking more broadly about running either a league or running a tournament. And I think there's some things we want to consider as potential tournament organizers or league commissioners or somebody who wants to be involved. So you don't have to be either of these things, and this segment is still going to be of interest to you because there are some parameters that you need to consider and implement. And I think they're they're categories of things that people care about. So yeah, I wanted to just run through some of these things, but it's a pretty massive topic. So, being a tournament organizer or being a league commissioner is not a small ask. It's quite a commitment. And so you do want to go into it with your eyes wide open, knowing what you are taking on. But it's incredibly rewarding. But it's such a big topic. There's so many things to consider that we're actually going to break this up into two separate episodes. So we're going to talk about part one today. And so we'll talk about some of the things you need to consider, and then we'll revisit this topic in a couple of episodes' time and recover it. But the first question I want to know is, how do you consider either a league or a tournament? The following questions: who's going to play? Where are you going to play? And when are you going to have either your league and your tournament? Now, if it's a league, how often are you going to play? Like, is it going to be weekly? Is it going to be fortnightly? Is it going to be monthly? If it's a tournament, like whenabouts in the calendar is that tournament going to be? So let's talk about those topics first. And I might cross to Wilts first. Wilts is the one of us that isn't a tournament organizer, but is a veteran tournament attendee and has been a champion of our local league. So tell us, what do you think about these things?
So as far as when you should have your league rounds available, it's obviously going to depend on the players that you have involved in the league, how frequently they're available, and how quickly you want the league to be finished. So if you're running a league for players in a local gaming club and Blood Bowl's only one of several different games that you play, you might want to have a more focused weekly or fortnightly schedule. You might want to have a shorter league, 6 to 10 weeks, 6 to 10 rounds, and get it done and over with so people can go back to their other games without losing interest. There's other leagues where you might want to have the league take the whole year, run it longer, gives you more time to build up and the story and develop your players. So a lot of it does come down to it's not just one person making all the decisions. It's depending on who's involved, who's available, and what works as a whole. That obviously needs to be considered there. For tournaments, I think it generally comes down to as long as you're not trying to run at the same weekend as another big tournament that you want to clash with, people will turn up or they won't, depending on if they're available.
Yeah. Valid points, valid points. Getting back to your leagues, you mentioned about, how often will you play them? And that does depend, quite a lot on your clientele you have. Like if you're out of a local gaming store, you've probably got a lot of people that play games, and like you said, you might want to do a short 8 to 10 game league and then take a break and do 40K or something for a little while and then come back to the tournament, the league later on. I know the league that the three of us are in is the Gerbil League, and based on its size and the fact that we have a lot of our members are fly in, fly out, like they work in mines and so on. So we call them FIFO workers, and they can't commit to weekly games or even fortnightly games. So ours is a bit more expanded, and we have a month where a round can be played. So it's definitely you need to look at the clientele you have. How do you get them? Gaming stores are a bit easier. You just walk in there, chat with the guy behind the counter, and say, can I put up a flyer in the window that says, can we do this? Obviously have a chat with them behind the counter as well. Say, can we do games here? Is there a games night that's not fully taken? Like, do you do something on a Wednesday? Okay, cool. Can we make Wednesdays a Blood Bowl night or that sort of thing? So you do have to ask a few questions. It's not just a case of, well, this is when I want to do it and put it on. You're likely to find that you won't get much uptake. So getting the players in, and you may have to do if it's a brand new league in a brand new area, you might have to do a month or a couple of months of just going in and having practice games, teaching them skills and teaching them, what the dice are and where these players can go and what they can do before they will feel ready to, oh yeah, let's go and play a league from there. What do you reckon of
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, look, in the tournament side of things, I think when you're going to plan your tournament, you need to chat to your local NAF representative and find out what is currently on the calendar. Now, in this day and age, a lot of regions have a Blood Bowl calendar on their Discord. Maybe it's not Discord, but most I think is. The question for me, the question is, how are you not going to clash with other events? How are you thinking about spacing your tournaments out? Because you don't want to crowd out. You want as many people to come to your event who wish to as they can, and likewise to the other events around it. So do have a good chat to, find out who your local NAF rep is and chat to them about it. Now, I've had multiple chats even this year with potential tournament organisers who haven't even thought about what other events are in the calendar. They're just like, oh, I just want to put on a tournament. Well, I think you just need to be a little bit more mindful than that as actually thinking about, what else is on in the area, what else is on at the time, and have a chat with your NAF rep. They're there to help. So they're not going to say never do it. What they are going to potentially say is, hey, have you thought about putting it on this? This is going to work quite well for us. And that way the maximum number of people are going to come. So yeah, I just really encourage that. And I do think you would need to think about your venue as well. Where are you going to host your tournament? Is there a cost to that? Are you going to need to build that in? Or is it somewhere like a gaming store that's going to benefit from everybody being in the store, and maybe some of the cost you put towards the prize table ends up being gift certificates from the store? So do think about those things. And I think, if you involve the NAF early, they can also give you some suggestions on where to promote a tournament. If it's a league, NAF aren't really directly involved in leagues. There are some resources they provide to support your league. But, I think you just need to think about, who are the people you want to have involved? How do you communicate to those people to recruit them? Is there going to be a cost involved? That kind of thing. We're one of the slowest leagues on the planet. I think we're not the only league I'm aware of that runs one game a month, but we're up the top of that. And we only run 6 games in our seasons, which is very short. But interestingly, the current edition, Blood Bowl 25, seems to perhaps cater towards a shorter league season, maybe somewhere between 6 to 10 games rather than, 12 to 14. I think, other than if you're trying to develop your linemen because you want more positionals, I think it might work quite well because you've got more skills to start with.
Just going back to clashing of schedules, it's not even necessarily other Blood Bowl tournaments or wargaming events that you need to consider. It's also if there's something else going on that's going to use up all of the accommodation in your local area around the venue where you're holding it. So there's no point holding it the same weekend as Summer Nats if you're down that part of the country, or if there's a big concert on that's going to book out all the hotels nearby. It is worth bearing in mind of what's going on around you in that same time period.
Let's move on. So, Millsy, I'm going to cross to you now. Tell us,
Yeah.
what should you put in your rules pack? What shouldn't you? Again, we're talking both leagues and tournaments. What about cost and what about price? what things do you consider? And what about swag and what about prizes? Now, swag is really a tournament thing. That's for everybody who turns up. Prizes, both for leagues and tournament. Yeah, fill us in. What do you think league commissioners and tournament organisers need to consider?
Well, number one is, like you said there, that it's the rules pack. For leagues, if you're starting out, I strongly suggest that you go with as close as possible to the rule book as possible, because anybody new coming into the league, they're going to have a copy of the latest rule book. And the moment you start saying, "Oh, we don't do that rule, we don't do this rule, we changed this one, we've changed this one," it's just added complexity onto them. So, for a league, if it's just starting up, then go as close as possible. Obviously, we've all looked at the rules book and thought, that rule's probably not quite right. So if you're going to have some house rules, maybe limit them to one or two. I know here in the Gerbil League, because we have such a short league, one of the rules that we have is an added MVP at the end of the game. So, and it just, over a shorter period of time, it just allows the players, yes, to skill up a little bit quicker and just move that process along. If you're into doing a tournament, once again, rules pack is very, very forefront in a lot of people's minds. Do you go with something very standard? Do you go for what do they call the Povo Bowl, the ultra cheap, so you're not getting much TV, which kind of rules out getting any star players? Do you go open slather? I know the big Ipswich that we host here in Queensland is called the big Ipswich for a reason. They like to have lots of TV and lots of skill points to just include as much as you can. So, and that's their niche for that particular tournament. I know there's a tournament I've talked previously about Tasmania coming on board in the Blood Bowl scene. And they've got a tournament coming up called Luca Bowl. And they just wanted to have it a bit zany and wacky so people would remember their tournament and maybe want to come back to it. They've got a rule where all big guys, through one of a roll of dice or whatever, can throw teammate. So that's not going to invite everyone to come, or sorry, everyone will be invited, but that's not going to make sure that everyone comes to that tournament. Some people will go, "No, that's too out there for me, I won't attend it." But by the same token, you might get other players that go, "Yeah, you know what, I don't like playing serious Blood Bowl, but I want to go to a tournament and that seems wacky." So once again, going back to where we started this conversation, look at your clientele. Who do you want there? And once you've got that rules pack settled down, then you move on to costing and pricing. If it's for a tournament, your costs should, from my point of view, I don't want to make money on a tournament. I'm not going in this to say I'm going to charge X amount of dollars and then have this money and walk out at the end of the tournament. I want to put all of that money back into the tournament. So whether I go to sponsors and say, "Hey, you've got these, I'll pay you this much, can you give me a little bit extra?" And that's how I get some sponsorship out of it. But I want to use all of the money that I get from the entry fees to go towards as many prizes as possible. And you might want to put a few dollars on there because I'm going to get some custom dice made, or I'm going to get some reroll tokens or something like that. So you've got to factor that into, okay, I think I'm going to have 30 people attend. My reroll tokens are $2 each, and I want to give 3 to each person. So 30 people times $6. I've got to at least recoup that amount of cost. And like Bab said, if I have to hire a hall to do this, I've got to put that price in there as well. League's a little bit different. I know if you're running your league via tour play, unless you've got some sponsor that wants to pay for it, tour play costs money. So it might be a startup, that everybody that plays in the league pays, say, $20. And that $20, part of that money goes to paying tour play, and the rest of it should go to, let's get some prizes, let's get some gift vouchers from our local store and put it back into it. I would hate to see the day where Blood Bowl is made just for someone to make money, apart from GW, who that seems to be their job.
What about you, Wilts? What do you want to see in a rules pack? What do you want to see
in terms of costs and prizes.
But rules packs, as long as there's some point of interest that makes it a bit different from the other tournaments, gives you a lot more focus and a lot more unique, fun opportunities. As far as that goes, that could be pretty much anything, as Millsy mentioned. I'd more enjoy tournaments that are open to giving every team a somewhat good crack at getting towards the top of the table. Obviously, all teams are different, but within different tiering, you can give a reasonable representation of balance. For me, it is more about the little extras, the gubbins, the cool bits that you get just for turning up. Obviously, everyone enjoys a prize when they can get it because they don't have to pay for it as much. But the incidental tokens, the dice, everything else, if a tournament has a unique miniature that you get just for turning up, that definitely adds a lot more interest and a lot more value to the admission ticket.
Yeah, I think for me, you want to make sure that any house rules you have is really clear what they are so that nobody's surprised by them. And that can be little things like how your final structure works, or it might be, yeah, like Millsy suggested, if you're going to give an extra MVP, or you're going to allow, a cheaper inducement of some kind, or you're going to block an inducement, make sure it's really clear. The other one that I just want to mention, which we say often on Down Underworld Denizens, is if you're going to have Slan in your league or your tournament, put the roster in the rules pack. I'm going to keep repeating that until I'm blue in the face, but it's really important that you do, because you don't want anybody turning up either to your league or to your tournament and not knowing what they are. So be active in putting the roster in your rules pack. Millsy, if you're a rookie tournament organizer or a league commissioner and you've got a decent sized league and you want to get dice made, or you want some custom product, who would you recommend you see as somebody who really wants to streamline things and go to a one-stop shop?
Oh, well, this would come as no surprise to some of our frequent listeners. My go-to, which I'm actually currently in the process of doing, is Tats Tabletop. Tats does custom dice. He does, 3D printing and so on. Now, he doesn't just do 3D printing of miniatures and so on. He can actually customize your 3D printing. He can come up with pretty much whatever you want, and he is your one-stop shop for it. I'm currently been in text messages with him today about some dice that I've got coming up for a tournament I've got coming up, is the Bundy Brawl, and I've been umming and ahhing over what symbol I wanted on my D6, because I am going to give out some D6. So hot take for those people listening: if you come to the Bundy Brawl, you will get some D6. And so I mentioned to Tats, oh look, this is what I want. Here's a couple of images. Tell me which one you think would actually fit better on the dice. So, it's not just my thoughts of what I like. Tats will actually come out and say, well, this one will give you a better representation, because when we, put it down to the size of a dice and so on. And then he's gotten back to me today. He's gone, well, I think image 2 that you gave me today. And while we're at it, I can actually customize that for you with a little nameplate and Bundy across a section of it. I don't want to give away too much. And Tats is more than happy to do that. I've gotten 3D miniatures made by him for some tournaments that I've done before. And I said, oh, look, I've got this STL, but it's not exactly what I want. No worries, Millsy, send it to me. I'll do some customization, show you a couple of pics and pick what you want. So for a one-stop shop, I'm going to go with Tats every time. But in your area, there are lots of other people. Tats even suggested to me, which kind of completely sort of blew my mind, that Sean John at Jester Prints, he's another big guy here doing 3D printing and so on in Australia. Tats actually said you should reach out to Sean and see what he can do for you as well. So I love the fact that Sean and Tats probably are both the two biggest 3D printers in Australia, and there's no animosity between either of them. They want to work to further the community, and if you can get a company that is here for the community, then that's your number one go-to for anything.
And Millsy, you know, one of the things you want to think about either as a league commissioner or as a tournament organizer is trophies. How are you sorting that issue?
Once again, I've because I've been to a couple of tournaments and so on, you get to see what other tournament organisers are doing. Unfortunately, one of the big tournaments I couldn't get to last year was the Death Row 11s up in Townsville. I just time I couldn't get up there, but I saw the prize table, I saw the trophies on there, so I reached out to Aiden G and went, mate, who did your trophies? They look amazing. Oh, that's Rob Wilcox from. He's also up in Cairns from where Tats comes from. So I've reached out to Rob Wilcox and said, I saw the trophies at the Death Row 11s. Here's my logo. Can you do it? Yep, no worries. Oh, while you're at it, do you want some tokens? Yeah, look, I do want some tokens, and I want this. Once again, he came away, went away, come back, probably half an hour later, and said, "Oh, look, I've got these three mock-up designs," and it's like, oh my God. So like they will do some extra work for you. They don't have to do exactly what you've got. So I chose one of them and I said, okay, yep, cool. This is what I want. Tell me how much. He said, oh, don't pay me yet. I'm going to do a couple of other things. Oh, and by the way, I'll throw in some extra stuff. So that's Rob Wilcox is from Epic Upgrades, and I believe he actually has an eBay shop now too. So if you look at Epic Upgrades, there's another place. He does all sorts of stuff, and it's not just for Blood Bowl. If there's a token that you can use in a miniatures game, he does it. If there's a trophy that he can do it, and he can do wooden bases, perspex, you name it, he can do it. So there's lots of people. For here in Australia, I would recommend those people highly. In your area of the world, go to a tournament. Ask the tournament organizers who did that for you. Who did that for you? And pretty soon you'll get this. A fairly common set of names that keep popping up. It's like this guy done it, it's great. This guy done it, it's great. So then you can know where to channel your next text message to say, "Can you be a sponsor for me?"
Yeah, and I just want to say one of the tournament organisers in our local area that I think did an absolutely stellar job on a fairly tight budget was the Big Ipswich Key last year. They came up with a lot of really unique prizes on the prize table that I hadn't really seen before, and I think that's a massive kudos if you can actually put some stuff on the prize table that is desirable because it's unique, not necessarily because it costs a lot of money. I think some tournament organisers can fall into the trap of having some really expensive prizes on the prize table, and that obviously costs every single coach that's coming to the event some money. Whereas if you do something a little bit custom, it may not necessarily cost you an arm and a leg and have something really desirable because it's unique. So yeah, I just wanted to say I thought that the Gibbs and TJ did a brilliant job with Big Ipswich Key last year with their prize table, and definitely some things to aspire to off that table.
Yeah,
I think
definitely. I'll jump in there, Babs, because after attending the Big Ipswich game, we had an interview with those in an earlier podcast about what they did and in such a short time frame of what they came up with and those unique prizes. And I mentioned it at the time. I actually completely stole their ideas. I did actually say, "Can I use them?" And they said yes. And I actually used some of those exact same things on my prize table at the Bundy Rumble last year. And funnily enough, Zach and Sarah both came to my tournament, which was fantastic. Love seeing both of those people there. And rather than going for some bigger prizes off the prize table, they actually went for my version of what they had done. And I got this text message 5 hours later to show me a fridge magnet that they put on their fridge beside their one of the Big Ipswich Key, and now they've got a Bundy Rumble fridge magnet there. So I felt a bit humbled by that, but yeah, don't be afraid to go and steal ideas from people. Yeah, it works a treat.
Yeah, absolutely. Craziest prize table I've ever done was the B9 tournament, which was a bit of a pub crawl around the central coast of New South Wales, and I actually got donations from a variety of local businesses around the central coast. So literally, I had Master Foods, the guys who make sauces and spice rack stuff, and we had literally sauces and spice rack stuff on the prize table, and there was a homebrew beer company that threw some stuff on the prize table. So we had the most random prizes on the prize table. But you know what? It was great. It was fantastic. So don't be afraid to look, think outside the box. And I think, there can be the danger that doing the same as other tournaments gets a bit old and tired. Like I worry actually that just having custom D6 swag may get tiring in the longer term, and people might go, well, I've got enough dice. So do think about what else can you do. I know in Australia, some of us have been looking over at Europe and thinking, you know what, we really need to get into patches. Well, maybe it's that, or maybe it's something else. Maybe it's some other unique thing that you've got that you can do.
I think that's a very heretical statement, though, Babs. I don't think you can ever have enough dice.
You take that back right now, Babs.
Oh no, blasphemy.
For a lot of people, though, I think it's more not necessarily about the fact of having dice. It's that the dice themselves are a reminder and a memory from that event. So it helps just keep it fresh in your mind every time you look at those dice. You bring back some of those cool memories.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
You take those dice back to your league that might not have all your members going to these tournaments, and like, oh wow, they look so cool. Where'd you get them? And you can tell them about, hopefully get them into tournaments. But just going back to something Wilt said a little while ago, it's like you might be someone that goes to a tournament that has absolutely no chance of getting a prize off the prize table. You're never finishing in the top, whatever it is. But I went to a tournament and I came back with some dice. I've actually got something. Now, whether it's dice or whether it's re-roll tokens or something, having some sort of bespoke giveaway at a tournament, can be the thing that just gets people across the line. So,
Yeah.
and
And one of the things I've seen that's done really, really cool is you actually get like a picture frame, and you actually put all your dice in the picture frame. Like you actually kind of make a picture with all your D6s on the six side, and you just stack them in the picture frame. Like, yeah, it's pretty cool. Anyway.
yeah, but then you've got to, as soon as you take the photo of it that they're in the picture frame, you've got to take them out because you've got to use them. You can't just get dice and never use them, Babs. That's what they're for.
So that's what you could do. You could do like your dice track. You know how you have a dice track, Millsy? You could give that away as swag.
Oh, actually.
Explain what that is to our listeners. What is this dice track I'm talking about?
Oh, being the little OCD guy that I am, I actually made this dice track. It was about 30 centimeters long, or a foot long for you Americans over there. And it just was a bit of timber I had with couple of sides on it. I put a bit of felt through it that could fit exactly two dice side by side. So what I would do is I would sit them all side by side, matching pairs all the way through. And when I had to roll some dice, I'd pull the first two out, I'd roll them, pick them up, and then stick them at the end of the little dice sliding thing and slide them down. So I was always using two extra ones. But you've given me an idea, and I reckon Rob from Epic Upgrades might be someone that could actually do that for me. So stay tuned, people. Stay tuned.
And a note for anyone that plays against Millsy, if he's busy watching someone else's game next to you, just swap one of his dice from one position to another and wait for him to notice.
Them's fighting words, Will. Them's fighting words.
Ooh, yeah, that's a bit of a what do they call it? Subterfuge.
Yeah. No, the worst you can do is what Wilts does to me all the time. It's just roll two different colored dice. That gets me every time. I
Or
have
three
to
if
roll
it's a
mine in
3-die
pairs.
block.
Oh, Wilts, stop it.
I'm taking notes.
Oh, the worst is Pete Sinclair, aka Jawa Knights, his NAF name. He showed me this set of dice that just had the pips were random. They were not in lines and rows. They were just randomly scattered everywhere. And it blew my mind and did my head in. I actually swapped him straight up. I think he needed a Dark Elf, Witch Elf, or something like that, a third edition one. So I actually did the swap, gave away a perfectly good miniature to get these dice just so they could never be used against me.
Oh, don't worry, he's got like 30 of them. He's got plenty more.
I know.
Hey, look, this is a really good segue. We actually thought one of the things that our listeners might be interested in is the interaction between tabletop and online play. And, it is possible that both in your league and at a tournament, you can actually have tabletop games viewed online at the same time as they're being played or live streamed. So we're going to cross to the New Dice Please. New Dice Please are a UK-based podcast.
Without further ado, let's cross over to Chris Coe, Scott Bryant, and Tom Hobble for what they can do with a camera and a live stream.
Well, on Den Underworld Denizens, we would like to say a huge welcome to New Dice Please, who join us all the way from UK. They are experts in streaming Blood Bowl. In particular, we're talking tabletop Blood Bowl. And yeah, we've actually got them on in particular for their expertise about what it requires to actually live stream Blood Bowl. But before we dive in, we have our regular questions that we ask our guest commentators. Millsy, over to you.
G'day, lads. I just want to know how the three of you all got into Blood Bowl in the first place.
Good question. I was playing Dungeons and Dragons in my friendly local game store, and I wanted some miniatures to be the bad guys, and I spotted the Lizard Man team on the shelf. So I bought so that was why I bought them. And then once I built them and painted them, I kind of thought they looked too cool to just use for D&D. So I went to my friendly local game store, got a practice game in, and never looked back, really.
Cool. This is Scott. Then I used to do 40k sort of in and out in local gaming store. Just a shout out to that. So Aardvarks and Dragons down in Woodbridge in Suffolk, England. If you're ever in the area, pop on down. I was playing 40k in there, particularly 9th edition, and then chatting to the store, met people like Chris, and decided I'd always had an interest in, a bit more old world with old world and AOS, and then sort of got roped into it and have been heavily involved and addicted to it ever since, really. And then myself, Chris, and Tom sort of got together and decided to start 2 years ago, actually. 2 years ago, coming up to. We just sat in a pub one evening and thought, let's just share with the Blood Bowl community as if we were sitting in the pub talking and chewing the fat together. And here we are.
Hi, everyone, and thanks for letting us be on your podcast. Yeah, so I kind of got into it about 3 years ago during COVID, as most of us were sitting around in our houses, looked to resurrect a hobby. And I remembered back in the 90s enjoying painting and building Warhammer. But now that I've got a wife and family and everything, I thought I'd give myself a little bit of a restriction to a team rather than an entire army, although the boxers to the left of me will say otherwise.
You never bought all the teams, Tom. It doesn't really work in your favour, does it?
I know. Stop making more teams, for the love of God. Yeah, so that's how I kind of got into it. And around our way, around here in Suffolk in the UK, there's a number of local independent shops, and I just happened to walk into Aardvarks and Dragons in Woodbridge and bumped into these two reprobates and started in the league. So yeah, that's me.
Now, everyone has their favourites and their darlings. Would you like to introduce our listeners to your favourites?
Yeah, my beautiful, wonderful Bitey Ducks, my Lizard Man team, absolutely my favourite. That first team that I bought shared a glance across the shop, and I've sort of toyed with a few others, but I always end up coming back to them because I think they're how I learned how to play, and I think I keep coming back to them because I built this narrative around my team of being a bunch of lizards inspired by the Mighty Ducks franchise, and got so into it I just can't look away. I'll pick something else up and I always have to come back to them. I love skink nonsense. I love chucking with a chameleon, and love-hate relationship with a Croxagore. So always top of my list.
Similar to Chris, really. Basically, I love Edge. I love that sort of go for it, a bit of a YOLO. I got into it. My first team was Skaven, Really, really like them. The last couple of years I've been playing wood elves, pink wood elves, because they were a gift, and so was the paint pot. And the challenge was, there's a team, there's a color, mix and match. So I do play pink elves. And as much as I do love my woodies and I love that, I can't go where my first love, my true love, would be Skaven, would be rats. Despite all the heinous crime, I've taken them to tournaments. I've run the 5 gutter build with Skitter, and it's just so much fun and stupidity. So yeah, that's me. Adge, Skaven, or Woodies.
Yeah, for me, orcs were and have been my first love. Played them in a couple of leagues, and also probably my most tournament played team. Although currently I'm having a bit of an affair with a necromantic horror. Again, played them mainly in tournaments, and this is going to be my first league game with necromantic. So as you can see, we're kind of got our own kind of little areas of expertise as such.
Yeah, lovely. You've mentioned sometimes tournament play, sometimes league. Do you have a favorite? Which do you prefer, league or tournament?
I'm 100% league. I do play tournaments. I've run tournaments. I do quite enjoy a tournament day. I think I really like that kind of the narrative side and a narrative you can build through a league. I played one season in a league, and by the end of the second season I played in, I was assisting with commissioning, and now I'm full on sort of one of our 3 commissioners for our league that we go through. And I think it's because I really enjoy I enjoy watching a story build, like watching teams get destroyed in game 1 and have a great comeback story, and sort of watching players develop to getting maximum SPP and immediately dying in their next game. Like I really like following the different kind of trails that you get. And I like the fact that you end up building a team that I think sometimes you can end up building a team that's quite reflective of the season you've had. And it's not necessarily just there's not many tournaments I go to with lizards where I don't put as much block on my Saurus as possible. But a couple of seasons ago, I ended up with a Saurus with Frenzy and Fend through kind of randoms through Impatience. And you end up with these I think you can end up with quite interesting builds for various reasons. So yeah, the narrative keeps me dedicated to leagues more than tournaments.
I've recently, as in August last year, played against a Lizardman team that had 6 Wrestlesauruses.
Ooh,
now, on the face of it, it seems really silly, but it's definitely convinced me that having 2 or 3 of them is a fantastic thing to help open up gaps.
Please stop giving him ideas. Stop giving him ideas. I'm in his group. Stop.
It is something I'm thinking about, kind of wrestle and brawler and stuff, because my team value is going to blow if I block all my Saurus up this season. So I am wondering about the alternatives. So I like that idea.
Just go Varnbar. You'll be fine.
And the thing is, no, it's not. And what we're, guys, just so you are aware, we're trying to do everything to try and just basically break Chris and the lizards. It's like trying to get him away. We've talked about Chaos Chosen previously. We've talked about others. He's tempting. He's flirting with pro elves. God help, but yeah, we're trying to break that. For me, in terms of league or tournament, I started with league, and that's how I sort of got into it through the league scene over the last sort of year, really 18 months, starting to go to tournaments. Done the classic single day 3 game, done also the single day 4 game, which is last year, 2-day tournaments, and more than that. So I'll be honest with you, I'm going to be a bit crap here. I'm sitting on the fence. I do like both tournaments and league in equal measure. I love, as Chris says, the narrative, developing the skill set on the team. But I do like a tournament, and a bit of a YOLO and just, GFI. But if I have to stop being crap and make a decision, I'm going to go for tournaments.
Yeah, I've played both. Obviously, a bit the same as the others. I started off in league to kind of take the stabilizers off. But as people who've played me will know that I'm always racing to the bottom of any table. So usually tournaments, you'll find me on the kiddies table at the end of the tournament, playing for the wooden spoon, of which I've got many a collection here. But I enjoy them equally. Agree with Chris. The camaraderie from our league play and the thematics and the ability to have great teams and build them out and have a little bit of a story. Really enjoy that. But equally, I love going to tournaments and meeting new people, and also kind of nowadays, I don't know if it's always been the same, but I'm finding more and more tournaments have their own special uniqueness, be it gameplay, freebies, or some kind of theme where you get extra points if you wear a particular shirt or if you wear a bucket hat or something like that. So I'd like to do more tournaments, but I think I'd end up divorced if I did that. So I'd have to say that League for me is my stable enjoyment.
Excellent. Going back to our hot takes edition on your wonderful Blood Bowl Live, New Dice Please podcast, YouTube thing. If there was one thing you could change in the current Blood Bowl editions, what would it be?
I'm finding this really tough because I'm quite happy with what's happened to my lovely lizards. Generally, I think I'm 50-50 on elite skill tax in kind of leagues and how that impacts your team, mainly because we've had one day. Our league literally started, like, at time of recording, it started yesterday. We had our first games played yesterday. And what's very quickly become apparent is that no one really cares about the tax. Everyone's just taking those teams anyway, those skills anyway, sorry. So I kind of don't really see the point. And I think it just feels to me like it punishes teams that need those skills and don't come with them. Like Chaos Chosen, my darling block on my Saurus, teams that maybe don't come with as many of those elite skills, kind of just punishes them. So I think that's I probably would remove that. Kind of would be my only change, I think, at the minute.
My only change, really petty, really. So at the kickoff event, when the ball's coming down, why have they taken the -1 off to catch it?
Oh, shut up.
No. Just going straight to your edge roll. The ball's in the air. It's a catch. And anyway, that's the one thing I would change at the moment. Put that back in. Stop being silly. Yeah.
For me, it's something that has been added, but actually tournament and kind of organisers have actually taken away, and that's the prayers to Nuffle inducement. Stop taking it out of tournaments and league. We must have it. It's fantastic. Adds an extra element of fun and amusement.
My man, the very first game I played in the 2020 edition, getting back into the hobby after a long time, I had a Snotling, 3 dice uphill blitzer werewolf that had the ball. Push him onto the trapdoor. The werewolf fell through the trapdoor into the pit beneath. The ball came out, bounced onto somebody, bounced back onto the trapdoor. The Snotling then follows up onto the trapdoor to pick up the ball, picks up the ball and then falls through the trapdoor himself and dies. That was the best play that I've had in the last 4 years, and it's like it can't happen anymore.
Are you playing Blood Bowl or are you in a Looney Tunes cartoon? I can't tell which.
Isn't the best game of Blood Bowl both at the same time?
Tom Hovel, I thought when you said, it was something that Blood Bowl 25 game gave, but all the organisers took away, I thought you were going to talk about prone and stun markers, because I think Down Underworld denizens think that's the one rule that needs to change. It's is not putting your miniatures down anymore.
We put them down.
Yeah, we put
them on the floor.
Yeah, I've literally written that down. My one change is fire whoever it is at Games Workshop that says you don't have to put your miniatures prone and stun.
Very quickly, I got a story. I went to a tournament and I played against a gentleman who had this team, and he very quickly said, "Look, please do not touch this team. I bought it in an auction." He'd recently retired as a postman and used some of his first pension money to buy this team. It was an elf team. It was a generic. They were painted like harlequins. I can't remember that there was a famous miniature pit painter, and he said he'd spent £700 on them. And I was like, why on earth have you brought them to a tournament? I'm paranoid. And they were made of glass. They were actually glass made, and they'd been painted over. So yeah, I definitely wouldn't have been touching them. And
I wouldn't put them down.
No.
I always just this is straight hot off the press from yesterday. So in our first day of our new league in Aardvarks and Dragons ADBBL yesterday, I took the pink woodies for first time in season 3. Nuffle disliked them, and I got an absolute kicking, and this is fair dues. Every time I put a stunned elf, though, upside down, facing up, my opponent, who Tom and Chris all know, looked at them and they made the comment to say, those arses on your elves, they look very nice, don't they? So that was a bit of a disconcert. So that's the only health and safety warning. If you've got someone with a plastic derriere fetish, just be mindful of how much they're touching your models.
Oh, love it. All righty, moving on to star players. Generally speaking, if you ask me, I'll tell you the only good star player is a dead star player. Although I have had some success with Vara Gulchur last year, absolutely loved him, and then had to face him in my final game at a doubles tournament a couple of weeks ago. And yes, I'm talking to you, Nick. I hate Varag again. But whilst I've got you lads on here, what's your favourite star player? Now, it could be what the player does, it could be the model, it could be anything. What's your favourite star player?
I very rarely end up using them. I think there's been a few tournaments I've been to. I had one terrible OWA season where I got to use a few. If I had to pick a favourite, I am an Acorn fan, because I just think the balls of it are just like, of just having this tiny little squirrel go around and cause nonsense, are great fun when it works. I think I'm probably going to go with Carla. I really like Carla von Kill because it's one of the first stars that I bought, and that one of the only ones that I have a model of. And I think they're quite simple, but and this is me now having not checked her in the new edition, but in the 2020 rules, the Indomitable, where you could Dauntless and go to 3 dice, was just great fun. And I took her with Ogres to a backbreaker tournament in London, and managed to 3 dice a death roller against dwarves, with the support of 1 Noblar, and then very quickly realized that because I hadn't actually broke the armor, I was about to be in a world of pain. But so I think I quite like Carla. I think for what she does and what she is, I think she's not or never was that expensive, and I think was quite fun.
For me, I've taken a few in the time, not well, just because I intend. I played Morg when I stepped in as a proxy coach last year, and that was he's totally OP, and that was very entertaining, especially against vampire thralls. I've played Hackflem. Hackflem is just filth. Obviously, when you can afford him at 210. I've played Skitter. I love Skitter and the Fog. When you could do the 5 gutter runner build, that was I won the local tournament with that, so that was funny.
Why stop at 5? Go for 6.
Yeah, if I could, I would have. Seriously, would have. I've played. I got kicking Noblar Blackhawk, who's absolutely OP at the moment with the block dodge, stunty chainsaw. Yeah, killed me to pieces yesterday. But the one again I would choose, just because I love him so much, just because the insane and the memery and the funniness of it, is Acorn. I go to Squirrel every day.
One of my favourites is Wilhelm Chaney. I just really like the model, but also playing Necromantic in tournament, having 3 werewolves, 1 strength 4 with wrestle and claws and savage mauling. It's really good fun.
Awesome. Now, final question, and new dice, please. You guys are experts at asking all kinds of random food questions, so I'm expecting big things here. But down Underworld denizens, Australian culture, we love a pub. Our Aussie pubs are good, but
we're not the origin of the pubs, and of course the UK is. So if we go over to the UK and we sit down with you guys and have a pub meal somewhere, what is your pub meal of choice?
So it's gotta have gravy. It's gotta have gravy. I think it's what I'm going for. So I'm either going for a roast, which in a good pub, a good roast for like a carvery where you've got all the meats out. That's maybe that. Or I'm going for a pie. And I listened to James Hewitt on your last episode talk about, and I was walking from town back to my house, and I heard him talk about how it's only a pie. Is we're not talking stews with a lid here. We're talking about pie with a thing. And I got a weird look from a lady because I just went, yes, James. So it's gotta have gravy. It's either a roast or it's like a nice pie with pastry base. It's got to be a fully encased pie.
Are you going to say what pie though, Chris? You can't leave us hanging.
Okay, I will go for a good chicken, like chicken and vegetable, or at Christmas time I make turkey and ham pie. So maybe turkey and ham.
Okay. For me, if we're going to the pub, I always look at the pub at, taking into context as well, when you're going, how long you've already been in the pub. So if you've been in from 11 o'clock in the morning, you've been watching, like in the UK, we have this, the final day of the Six Nations. There's 3 rugby matches back to back. So obviously you've got to be in the pub from 11 till about 11 at night. So if you're eating later on, can influence it. Depends how many beers you've had, but my go-to will be steak and kidney pie and peas and chips with gravy. And just to support and fully commend it to the house, James Hewitt, a pie is not stew with puff pastry lid. It is pastry all the way round. End of. There is no ambiguity in that. That is a pie. Let's move on.
So the others have gone for full meals, but again, going to the pub, you're with mates, you're quite possibly standing up or at the bar or whatever. So you can't go wrong with the classic Scotch egg, in my opinion.
Oh, that's such a good shout, Tom.
You see, we have a variety of Scotch eggs in this country that have gone from the traditional to chorizo and fiery ones. In fact, when the World Cup was on, one of the local pubs near my work did a Scotch egg for each of the games relating to the two countries that were playing. So when you had like Mexico, which was obviously a fajita style Scotch egg, versus the UK, which was just a traditional one, you had those kind of combinations. So yeah, bit of fun.
Just as a caveat though, for everybody, there would be a compulsory your own body weight in pork scratchings as well.
Oh yes, yeah, absolutely.
So if the guys don't know what pork scratchings is, just go and look very carefully on the internet.
Is that what we'd call crackling then?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Now, guys, in Australia, we have a few quite large tournaments and quite a long history of Blood Bowl tournaments, actually. But one of the new world kind of areas of Blood Bowl that we want to explore, and I've heard from a number of tournament organisers, is around streaming a game at a tournament. And you guys are actually the experts in the field here. What kind of equipment do you need if you're serious about streaming a game of Blood Bowl?
I think it's not as. I think there's a few different ways to do it. I think we've kind of played with a few things to kind of get what we have now. So we have a laptop that normally lives in the store where we play. It's kind of hides nicely under the table, and then we simply have a pretty bog standard webcam that we have a clamp, like a stand clamp to the side of the table, so the webcam is hovering over the center of the pitch, so you get the whole pitch in view, so you don't see the coaches. And then we moved to having microphones. So we've got wireless lapel mics, but actually for a long time, we just used plug-in wired, double wired mics that just clip on, which can be better because you can't go to the toilet and leave it on. So sometimes that can be a bit better. And that's kind of it. And that's quite easy to kind of take with us If we ever go somewhere, if we go somewhere to a tournament to stream, we've got it, that's all set up in the in Outtakes and Dragons, in the shop that we predominantly play in. So it's not a very big setup at all, and it's good to have the mics in particular. I think are probably the best thing, because I see lots of people. I see some people who stream online and kind of maybe they have one person who's kind of commentating over it, and I think that can be quite good if you've got a couple of people kind of giving insight. But what I think is really good about what we do is that you can hear a coach's thought process. They can, if they're talking through what they're doing, you can hear in their voice kind of how it's going. Is it going well or not? Kind of the two coaches chatting to each other, and you're not going to get a better insight than that into how the game is going, what they're doing, what they're planning to do. You know, you hear the groans when the dice go badly, you hear the cheers when they go well. So it's quite a kind of tight little setup that we've got now.
I think I can add to that as well, Chris. A couple of things as well, guys. Yeah, when we think about it, first of all, what makes a good stream? I think in terms of the technical setup knowledge, in terms of putting the laptop, just getting everything ready for streaming, etc., make sure there's more than one person has that knowledge. So, you're not over reliant on one individual. So that knowledge is shared. And if anybody can get to the store, someone can pop in and make sure it's set up, which is good to go. I think the other thing we've seen over particularly the last 18 months, and I'd say the last season that we had Blood Bowl, what makes a good stream is actually the input from the coaches. You will get certain coaches who are slightly more sensitive. They're not necessarily, out there. You get other coaches who are quite, and wonderfully overt, and that really adds to the narrative. You get coaches who bounce off each other, and what we've learned is, even if it's a 0-0 or a 1-0, if you've got that input from the coaches, if you've got that narrative, it really adds to the flavor of it as well, and really adds to that good experience. I think in terms of the feedback, some of the coaches, I try to do this as well. You look in the chat to see on Twitch who's just, on your phone, to see what comments are coming out, so you can interact with a bit with the audience. I like to be stupid, and so if I'm playing on stream, I'll do a bit of an intro music for the team. You put some commentary and put some crap in it, and it's always also making sure you shout out things like we do a lot for the local charities in the area, so make sure you remind people of that, and just gives you that platform. So it's thinking as a spectacle. How would you feel if you were watching that? Some coaches, will sit there and be quite quiet and just watch the dice roll. But where you see coaches who are really sharing that experience with the audience, makes a really good game. Tom?
I think I would like what you said there, Scott. I think one thing I would say is that we do get some people kind of add to that spectacle. Some people don't, and some of the people who don't still love to be on the stream, because they will, as soon as the game is on YouTube, they'll go back and they'll watch it and they'll look at where they went wrong and what did they do and things like that, and they'll start to kind of analyze their own game. So we'll try as much as possible within the league to give everyone who wants it the opportunity. We won't force it on anyone, but if they want the opportunity to have it, then we'll try and offer that to everyone.
Yeah, and I agree with what both of them said. The other thing is that we do a single camera stream. So obviously there are others out there that have multiple angles and different things. And it's very much top down looking at the board. And what I like about it is kind of a set it and forget it. Because ultimately you've got two people who are playing, and they're playing their own game. And it may be for league or it may be for tournament. But you want to play the right thing. You want to be able to focus on your game and just play your game. So a kind of a set it, forget it, I like, because you're not having to play up to an audience, or you have to think, oh, I need to be this way because I'm being recorded or whatever. So some of the fact that you can just forget that you're being streamed. You can't see your face on the stream. All you can see is people's hands moving around and the chat. And the chat then becomes really natural, I think. It's not staged, it's not forced. And again, you get more participation, we've found from our experience.
I'm going to jump back in. Tom Hovel, you raised a really valid point about people not getting concerned about being streamed. and that's a valid concern. And it's one of the things that I think tournament organisers probably need to consider is whether that's going to get in somebody's head if they're streaming top table at a tournament, for example. Is that going to actually negatively impact A, their experience, or B, their competitiveness? Are they going to actually get psyched out by being on live stream? And I've heard in some circumstances that actually when there were some games being played live streamed, that people the players themselves were watching along with the chat, and that some of the chat kind of got in their head or affected them negatively in some kind of way. Have you guys had any is there anything you want to add or any wisdom in that space about how to guard against that from happening?
Yeah, so yeah, we've obviously we're very open about it, and obviously Chris can probably give you a bit more detail on it. But we have a tournament that Chris started called the Ipswich Classic, and we're very open that the top table is streamed. If you're not comfortable, let us know and we'll move you. So basically what you'll put the second table goes to the top table and the top table goes to the second table. So if on that scenario, we've also been involved in streaming for other tournaments. So again, one that we were looking to try and expand out, a multi-day one called Carrot Crunch. We came up with thoughts about doing kind of talking to people while they're playing or just after they've finished their game, doing an interview style thing to add to the mix as well. And I can't remember who it was. It's either Scott or Chris came up with the idea of a beer mat. So basically you have a beer mat and it's red on one side and green on the other. And you just have when you get to the table, if you want to be streamed, you put it to green. If you don't want to be streamed, you turn it to red, or you don't want to be disturbed and turn it to red. So you could do it that way. Having people listen or watching the stream while they're playing, hats off to them. I don't think I've got the brain capacity to play a game of Blood Bowl plus watch what the stream is doing as well. So I think for me, if I'm playing a game, regardless of whether it's streamed or not, I'm having a hard enough time just trying to keep my players on the pitch and not roll ones, to be honest.
We did, if I can, Chris, we did have an issue last season. This was in our conference semi-final playoff, and this was between Snotlings and Pro Elves, and they were playing, and there had been someone, the Pro Elves, one of them had a dump-off skill. So after an attempted blitz, they'd used the skill, and then they went on to score a touchdown. Someone in chat called out and mentioned it, that actually the skill had been used in the past and the dump off had been over, I think it was 4 squares as opposed to the 3 square short pass you're allowed to. So the two coaches were sort of looking at each other, and they were looking at each other. And I think, Chris, they had a chat with you, they had a chat with Scott in store as well. And they basically decided to restart, change, and it completely changed the dynamic of the game. So I think things like that, as an individual coach, it's agreeing with your opponent. So first of all, if any, we put a comment out there, and we still do as well, is if you are in chat, let the coaches get on with it, in terms of rather than recommending strategies or anything. If you are the coach themselves, that's your prerogative. If you look and listen, or the recommendation is you don't, especially to advice, not just in terms of feedback or shout outs. But in terms of, the golden rule as well, we try to do is as well, as page 30, 31 of the new book, it's about having fun and, trying to play to the rules. If a dice is rolled, a dice is rolled. If you miss something, no one tries to, that I'm aware of, no one tries to do a gotcha or gimme or be that coach, but just play the basic rules. If something happens, we will all make mistakes. But if you've rolled the dice, you accept the result, you move on from it as well. But yeah, so that was, I think, the main occasion I can think of when chat had an impact in terms of the result of the game.
Yeah, I would advise anyone who is being streamed to just keep the chat closed and to not follow it, because I think what Tom mentioned is the ideal scenario is that the whole setup is as low impact as possible, and that you wouldn't notice that you are being streamed. If we're doing audio and you're wearing a mic, obviously you may know it's there. Hopefully you'll forget it's kind of there after a period of time, and you can only hide a camera so much. But the goal has always been that people are just turning up to play a game of Blood Bowl, and that we just happen to make it that other people can enjoy that game as well. So I would always kind of say to people, don't, it's not there for you to get live tips or to be told you've done wrong. It's not there. It's certainly not there to be like a video referee. We're not going to go back and check whether you've done something and then make a decision. If something happens in the game and you get something wrong, or you do something or whatever, we're not going to retcon that because we've got footage of it happening differently. It should be there to enhance people's enjoyment, for people to enjoy watching, for you to go back and enjoy watching your own game if that's what you want to do. As much as possible, coaches need to forget about it, and it needs to not be used for kind of any other purpose.
Yeah, I had the same thoughts. Like if you're the one being streamed and you're looking at the chat, and then someone's put up there, oh look, now he's got a shot at the ball carrier. Yeah, that might have been something in the heat of the moment that you might not have seen. So getting that those tips from outside people is I know when you're at a tournament, you can't say those sorts of things to people. So just wondering that if that ever did come up, and I think that answers the question.
Yeah, I think it has done. I mean, I've had a game that's been streamed, and I've looked at the chat and seen 3 or 4 people just saying, "Why is Chris not being aggressive enough? He needs to be more aggressive." And I've kind of been sat in the game perfectly comfortable with how I'm playing, and then start to second guess myself. Oh, should I be being more aggressive in this game? And I kind of look back and I think, no, I was kind of playing my game plan, playing how I wanted to play, and I was perfectly happy with, the game didn't go my way because of other factors, but not I think because I didn't play a way that other people who were watching thought I should. So it can do it has come up, but I think that's then kind of down to TOs and down to league commissioners to kind of suggest that people you leave that alone, that we are not going to make a judgment based on what's in there, and we don't think you should either.
So, I think one of the reasons why in the Australian tournament scene we're really keen to see some streaming happen at tournaments is because Australia is so spread out. It's very difficult for Australians to get to every tournament. And so being able to have people from some distance away engage with what's going on at a tournament is something quite desirable. Give us the example, what have you streamed that's been the most viewed? Is there an example of something that's had a lot of interest? Has there been something, that's seen a lot of people connected at once? And is there a particular internet speed or something that we need to be aware of that you need if it's going to be popular?
Yeah, so I'll do the second point first. So you want a good upload speed so that your connection is not too interrupted. There was a tournament we tried to do streaming for a couple of years ago, and we tried to give it a go on like a hotspot off a phone, and the connection was just awful and kept dropping out, and footage was almost unusable. So we've kind of learned from our mistakes there. It needs to be good enough that realistically, it needs to be good enough that you could have a video chat with someone without really any issue, because that's all you're really doing is you're putting out just a simple video feed. As far as videos that have done particularly well, it always helps if the team names happen to sound very similar to NFL American football team names. That always gets us a bit of a spike. I think there's one game I played, and I'm gonna struggle to remember the name of the team, but my opponent's team, I was the Bitey Ducks, and their team sounded very much like a very much like a American football team. And I suddenly woke up one morning and was like, why is this one in the hundreds? Why have we suddenly got an awful lot on this one? And that was kind of why. So yeah, I think once people know where you are and what we try and do, so we do, as well as doing the live streams on a Monday night, we do a roundup of our league where we do kind of a show we have in the UK match of the day where they go over like the week's Premier League fixtures. We have our own version of that where we'll chat through the games that have happened. What we would love is people watch that and hear some team's games and then look out for when that team is live. And maybe I don't expect everybody to watch every live game, but I think if you can pick a team in someone else's league and kind of support them and then follow them and maybe watch their games, I think that's trying to build that kind of enthusiasm always helps get people staying and watching.
Yeah, so the most popular game that we've got on our YouTube channel, which is Blood Bowl Live, to Chris's point, is the Los Amazon Dodgers versus the Honkerton's Folly. And I think that one potentially has got two reasons. A, that slight NFL connection, but also with Gnomes. The thing was that Gnomes, I think, was one of those teams that would just come out. And that's another thing. Playing in leagues and playing when a new team comes out and someone's playing that team, I think it gets a lot of interest because people start to wonder, oh, how is that played? How is that team against another team that I know? How's that working? And people sometimes use it for their own kind of research along those lines.
And I think just to build on what Chris said there, so there's the match itself and the game itself, but then we have the Monday night roundup. So every Monday, after we have that summary, that like sports event narrative about what were the matches. We have a quick run through. So every match, gets a call out. The coaches get a shout out. We also add into there as well as a little bit in terms of links, information. Whether it's about little things like how to book a table correctly for coaches, how not to book a table incorrectly, just to help them clarify where to go on Discord for information. And also then we'll put in things about charity, merch. We're doing anything, to basically milk the audience and get as much money out of them as we can for a good cause. But it's all of these pieces that sort of add up. And I think the one thing we've learned, through the New Dice Please podcast as well is consistency. We will look to get a weekly podcast out, so there is that consistency for people. Some, like last week it was just myself and Tom Feeks. Other weeks it can be 4 or 5 of us on the podcast, and we will always look to make to talk about what is important to us about Blood Bowl. Things like the community, as if we were in a pub having our pie and chips. And what would we talk about? What witterings and drivel would be relevant for us, and we try to get that narrative and that enjoyment right throughout, whether it's the live cast, the roundup, the NDP as well.
So is YouTube the hosting platform that you use?
So we use Twitch for the live streams, and you can link your Twitch account to YouTube. So once the stream is over, we can quite easily send it from one to another. So we kind of use YouTube. We did try live streaming on YouTube and live streaming on both, but we mainly use YouTube as kind of our YouTube is our Netflix, and to keep everything on, and then Twitch is our live TV channel for any time we broadcast.
Yeah, we make all our money from Millsy's Only Frogs account.
Still waiting for those shirts, Babs.
And, is there a link you can share? I'm just asking for a friend, Millsy. Yeah.
I suppose the two other big things that I've found that has been a strength to the streaming and just the community in general is us using Tour Play to manage our leagues and tournaments. And that's quite nice because we're streaming things and people go, oh, I want to see a bit more about those teams. So they can literally jump onto Tour Play and see a rundown of the teams, the skills, the SPP, everything all in one place. And then we've also got for League, we've got a Discord channel, and that's been really useful. And there's a big shout out to James and Luke who do a lot of management of the Discord channel, because again, you need to have that consistency, as Scott quite rightly says. You can keep these things going, you can set them up, but to have them and maintain them, that's sometimes the time consuming part of streaming and managing leagues and recording of them.
I think tour play means we can, if you update a touchdown on tour play, we have the tour play feed. It's quite a cut down version of it, but we have that within the stream for the live games, so that automatically updates. So again, it just means that as far as managing that stream goes, you click start streaming and then you click end streaming, and you shouldn't need to do anything in between.
All right. So tour play is somehow you're linking tour play and Twitch. That's pretty clever.
I tend to summarize how we do it as I think we make something that looks very good with the minimal amount of effort that we can or knowledge of how to do it. We use a software called OBS Studio. It's a free software that you can, again, you link that to your Twitch account. So, and from there you click start streaming. And within there, you can put in to show up on the screen, and it's overlaid over the pitch a browser which we just crop down, so all you see from that web browser is the scoreline. You just see the numbers 0-0, and then that will update as tour play updates. So it looks good, but I think I'm safe in the knowledge that I set it up in a way that I know how, and I'd love to meet someone one day who will tell me a much better way to do it.
I think just on that though, as well, we mentioned tour play. One of the pieces of feedback that we've had from people in our coaches in the league is that people love it when they see tour play for the league pinging them updates in terms of touchdown casualty, and especially as it gets towards the sharp end of the season, towards the end of the league into the playoffs, people really like that, because it just adds that little bit of especially a little bit of excitement, especially if someone has a vested interest. If that result, that touchdown, that casualty, that KO is going to mean that potentially they could get into the top half, into the championship, they could or they could miss out. So it all seems to add in terms of a really good experience for coaches.
Okay, my final question is around commentary. And in particular, have you ever had somebody kind of grab your feed and then kind of run a cut down, edited a version and put commentary over the top of it? Like, has there ever been an issue where somebody's grabbed your live stream, your stream, and then, created their own product out of it? Has there been any issues there? And the reason I guess I'm raising it is, there was definitely some negative feedback about some of the commentary that happened for when Team England were preparing for Eurobowl. I heard about that, and just that perhaps some of the commentary was not particularly always in a positive light about what the team were doing. So anyway, I'm just interested to hear your thoughts around commentary over the top of a stream.
Yeah, I'm not aware that we've had ours kind of taken and changed in any way. I know we spoke to Dizzy Bees who did the stream for Andy Davo's Blood Bowl Open last year, and she mentioned that she had seen her stream at some point in the past appear somewhere else, and to counter that, she made sure that they basically used a pitch that had within the pitch, it had all her details on it. So if you were going to take it and put it somewhere else, it was very clear it was hers. I think we're quite, if I ever see or kind of hear someone being very critical about a stream or commenting about players not knowing things or anything like that, it is kind of one of the things that will lead me to, if I know that person, I will reach out to them and to kind of reply to that comment, because it's just not really it's not in the spirit of why we want to do it. We don't want, it can be a great tool to learn more about what you've done and things like that, but it's not a platform to criticize people who have just turned up to have a good time, and to do their hobby that they enjoy doing, and it just so happens that they've allowed you to watch it. You as a viewer shouldn't, you should be positive in any comments that you make about that. I know that's kind of probably a much wider thing with anyone who makes content in general. So yeah, I'm not aware of ours being used somewhere else, and I would always be very reluctant to have commentators commentating over a game unless it was the coaches that played, I think is the caveat. I think there's a live stream game of me and Scott playing in a tournament. I would, if there was demand for it, I would put that video out again with me and Scott talking over what we've done, why have we made decisions, because I think because I have no problem with being critical about myself and us having a discussion about how the game went. I don't like the idea of someone else being critical about what someone is doing and not being that person, not being in their headspace. So yeah, I think I'd be reluctant unless the coaches themselves wanted to do it.
The other angle of commentary, which my personal opinion would be that a commentary team narrating a game should be more like a sports colorcaster, where they're not critical of the coach, they're not critical of he should have done this or this. That's not the rule. It's more calling the action as it happens in a colorful, fun and friendly way. But also mainly that they shouldn't necessarily be in a position where they can be heard by their coaches as they're playing. They should be watching it from a remote location where they're not going to impact the game itself in progress.
Yeah, absolutely.
You need that impartiality. Yeah, it's one thing we've talked about in the podcast as well. We talked about it a bit length. You need that impartiality. You don't want to, as Chris rightly said, you don't want to distract from the experience of the coaches. And there are a number of streamers, and you see streams out there on BloodBowl, whether it's tabletop or BloodBowl 3 as well, where commentary can be heavily biased. It's and people giving their opinions, where we all know there are a multitude of solutions in terms of any scenario that you will see on a BloodBowl pitch. Just because you don't happen to have a solution or you do something different, maybe it's the sequencing that is different from the person commenting, that doesn't mean you're wrong. So I think it's always, as we said, it's trying to keep it impartial and keep the experience positive.
Yeah, I fully agree with what they've said there. It's at the end of the game, we're rolling dice and moving figures around a board. People can, the internet can be a great place to promote and enjoy your hobby, but as we all know, there's a negative side to it as well. So I think what we try and do is we do just show games, how they're played, how people are playing, and how people are enjoying it. And luckily, we haven't had negativity or any kind of misappropriation of our kind of work and stuff. So that's been quite a good thing. But you really need to take it in with a pinch of salt on that side of things. And again, like I say, I like the idea that we have quite a straightforward streaming process, and then we build around it. So we started off talking about how do you set it up and everything. Ultimately, there's a single camera linked to a laptop, and that is streaming a downward view of the board. But the other things that add value that I think to our kind of enjoyment of it is the community around it. The Monday night roundup that we do, talking about each of the coaches in a positive way. And each of the games will say about, oh, well, they got that many casualties, or they managed to get away with that kind of scenario. But again, it is in a positive light, not in a criticism of anyone. And also, we'll also have some of the players come on the Monday night roundup as well and give their own views. So it's just about enhancing a league and a community, and also adding a little bit extra to a tournament.
Yeah, that
Awesome.
sounds great. I've getting quite a few ideas myself here of how we can, like you said, enhance our league. And one of the things, if I ever can't go to a tournament here, all I've been able to do is log on to Tool Play, and I can see the stats and the touchdowns and casualties come up, but you don't sort of get that feel for it. And I love the fact that you have a regular, like you've got the Monday night, so it's something like a TV show that you can literally, Monday at 7:30 I'm going to log in, or I'm going to sit down, I'm going to watch this. And you would get that. Like, I love the story of a league. So finding out which coach got absolutely flogged and has three journeymen this in this game coming up adds to that element of that storytelling. And I think that's the biggest thing I'm taking out of it.
Yeah, I think it's one of the best things that we do, actually, because you don't have to watch every game. You can kind of get the updates. You can follow it along. It's a regular thing, but it's on YouTube to watch whenever you want shortly afterwards. And I would like, and I've always kind of had this view that whenever we decide to do something, we do it because we think it will make our league more engaging for the players and for the coaches. And that's always the number one reason why we'll do it. And if we can think of something else that we think will make players more engaged and make them enjoy it more, then we'll try it. And I would never, if someone ever came to me and said, how do you do the roundup? How does it work? Because we want to do something similar. I'm always more than happy to chat to anyone about how we do things and get them to do it as well, because I don't want to safeguard. I don't want to kind of ring fence this thing that we do. I think it's a great asset to our league, and I think if you've got the right people within your league who want to do the same thing, I would absolutely recommend it, because it really, it turns it from. I see the league in the games I go and play like I feel like I'm the coach of a sports team, like which sounds really, it might sound a bit dumb, but I feel like yeah, I'm invested, and I'll check out on Monday and see what people think about how my team's done, and I'll go and then I'm so much more invested because of all of these extras, and I think some other people are as well. So I would always love to speak to more people and get more people doing stuff like this.
Yeah, it's kind of like a modern day version of what Jervis always wanted to have happen in the league, which was the old league newsletter that came out every round. It's kind of a modern version of the Blood Bowl newsletter. Hey, I'd like to just thank you all for being on the podcast. Before we go, is there anything else you'd like to tell our Dun Underworld Denizen listeners?
I think I'll just, if you want a league to follow, and you don't mind that they are 12 hours time difference from you, then yeah, our league, the Aardvarks and Dragons Blood Bowl League, has just started, kicked off on the 31st of January. So Mondays from now on, we'll have roundups of the games, and normally Thursday, Friday, Saturdays, sometimes Sundays, we'll have live games as well. So pick a team from the 35 that are taking part, and follow them and see how they do.
Yeah, just to add to that, if you want to find them in Tour Play, it's A and D BBL Season 10. So that's where we are on that league. Equally, you can catch us on YouTube under Blood Bowl Live, where all those recorded streams are. So if you're curious and to see what these top-down streams look like, they're on there on YouTube. And also we've got our own podcast, New Dice Please, which is on Spotify, and you can get it on YouTube as well.
I forgot about that one.
Yeah, and if people do want to send us any info or get in touch with us to find out how we set up, what we do, how we put it all together, drop us an email, newdiceplease@gmail.com. Top tip, though, from me, just before we finish, just remember, coaches, when you go to a Blood Bowl game, take your dice, It makes life so much easier because when you have to borrow dice from someone like Tom Hovel and they just roll ones and crap, then you just got off to a bad start. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
always
My
roll
dice
your
are
dice.
brilliant. My dice are brilliant. I gave you all my one dice. So yeah,
did.
thanks.
Yeah, Scott turns up to his first league fixture with no dice, and got the result he deserved because of it.
I did. Nuffle absolutely trolled me, and rightly so.
No, that
Anyway, we'll
reminds
discuss
me
that
of
tomorrow.
a different Ipswich here in Queensland. I went to the Ipswich Key not last year, but the year before. We travelled all the way down there. I had my Blood Bowl team. I had my Blood Bowl dice. I'd forgotten my port. I had no clothes with me, no toiletries, no nothing. We were away for 3 days, right? So, and I went on to win the
I
tournament.
can
So
live
you
with
know,
that. I can live with that. Yeah.
I had to share a room with that guy. Come on.
Hey, what happens on tour stays on tour, Millsy. You know that.
Yeah.
Correct, mate.
So, you know, forgetting your clothes behind actually could be an advantage, I think.
That's psychological gaming right there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Look, it's been an absolute pleasure, New Dice Please. I just want to thank you so much for coming on down Underworld Denizens. We really appreciate it. And I do want to just once again reiterate, if you are thinking about streaming a Blood Bowl game, please do reach out. These guys are here to help. They are here to help see, Blood Bowl be better. And perhaps streaming a game at a tournament or in a league is that next step. So thank you once again, guys. Really appreciate your wisdom. Wilts, there's one last thing we have to ask of our guests.
Okay, so I'm going to make this a team effort. We get all our special guests to say that's brilliant because that's become a bit of a catchphrase for us. Can I get you three guys to try and coordinate and say it all at once, please?
Okay, this is going to be fun. All right, it's all going to count us down. Is that going to work?
Go on, you count us down, Chris.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
That's brilliant.
Speaking of tournaments and leagues, I just want to let our listeners be aware that the NAF frequently asked questions document is actually designed for tournaments. So the NAF, obviously, their main mandate is to support the tournament scene of Blood Bowl. They do some support for leagues, but it's not their prime focus. And in particular, there's a few questions that I thought would be worthwhile just raising with you, the listener, in regards to league play. So the couple of questions, I've heard of about 3 or 4. Most of them seem to be around interactions with star player points and the prayers to Nuffle table. So, for example, a roll of 12 or a roll of 13 on prayers to Nuffle give 2 star player points for casualties, either by a foul or by the crowd actually inflicting the injury. My question that needs clarifying by whomever is the league commissioner is, if the team that is gaining this prayers to Nuffle and gets 2 star player points for casualty, do they get that raised to 3 star player points if they have the Brawling Brutes rule? So
I can
if the
actually
team-
answer you that one because I was looking at the rulebook earlier today. The answer is no, because the Prez Nuffle specifically says 2 SPP. Whereas if you look at Armbar as a skill, it says they count as having caused that casualty and gained the appropriate number of SPP.
Yes, but when you look at casualties, it specifically says 2 star player points. Same as prayers to Nuffle.
Yeah, but the Prez Nuffle doesn't say that player caused the casualty. They just gain bonus SPP at a set number.
I think it's still worth clarifying as league commissioner. The other one is the post-game sequence in a league. In particular, there is 6 points at the end of each game, the post-game sequence, and in particular, the point at which firing a player occurs and the point at which hiring a player occurs are in a strange order. And so just some clarity as league commissioners around whether they need to be swapped around to be 0.3 followed by 0.2 might be worthwhile clarifying.
Yeah, and I think the little back and forth that you and Wilts just had then, to does go to show that there is some ambiguity with some of these rules. And yes, the NAF has come out with this beautiful document in the interim until GW does. But that is solely for tournaments. That's NAF's domain is tournaments. They host the tournaments. They get to kind of say how they do and don't run. So while we're waiting for GW to come out, it's probably a good discussion for yourself if you're a league commissioner, or even if you're a player, to bring it up with your league commissioner. What is your interpretation at the moment? Now, I've got my opinion on that one, but like so many other rules in there, there is a little bit of ambiguity. So I do implore commissioners, if you're making a ruling, make that known to your players. If you're a player in a league, raise the question with your commissioner. The last thing you want is to have some sort of heated debate as it's occurring. So going into a league and or a tournament with any of these rules that we do change, make sure that everybody knows beforehand. And if you don't know, pop your hand up and ask the question, because they do say there are no stupid questions. And if it's about clarifying a particular rule that has some ambiguity, then I say we should be doing that.
Yeah, I think it's really important that people do get some clarity. Another one that I just thought of is around if you're rolling for a random primary skill, it's not completely clear if you roll a skill that you so you roll a d12, and then you get a second roll. And I'm just trying to remember the way this works, but I think it's around if you can't use the first roll, do you get to re-roll it, or do you have to take the second roll? Like, it's a bit ambiguous there. It's just another one that's worthwhile clarifying.
Yeah. Well, my understanding of that is because you get two rolls when you're rolling for random, you roll each of them separately. And if the first one cannot be used, then you re-roll that until you get a skill that can be taken, and then you do your second roll. But as you've just stated, is that fully clear to everybody? Is that fully clear to everyone's interpretation? If not, as a league commissioner, let people know what it's going to be. As a player in the league, ask your commissioner, what are we going to do for it? Where are they now? They've gone. Woop Woop. They certainly have. And who are they? They're the Dwarf Warhammerers. So
Yeah,
Dwarf Warhammerers were way back in second edition.
they're earlier.
And they
Earlier,
kind of,
they were in first
oh,
edition.
wow. Well, where are they now, Babs? Do you know?
Well, I have a sneaking suspicion they are the current dwarf team that we see in the rosters. I mean, they do get a mention as one of the teams that are a famous dwarf team, but we do know that the dwarf team's undergone a major redesign under Blood Bowl 25, and I've heard of people saying they don't understand why the dwarves have been redesigned the way they are. Why is it that dwarf linemen have primary devious access now? Well, I think this is because the dwarf team is becoming more like the Dwarf Warhammerers of the first edition and the second edition in particular. And in fact, the text that is at the top of the dwarf roster in the Blood Bowl 25 rules book is a direct pullout into almost word for word the text introducing the Dwarf Warhammerers in the second edition Star Player Handbook. Let me read it for you. If you've got your Blood Bowl 25 rulebook with you, you can pull it out and compare. But listen to this. Dwarves were one of the very first races to play Blood Bowl. Many dwarf teams can trace their history to the early years of the game. Since it was a dwarf, now immortalised by the name Roselle, who first discovered Nuffle's sacred laws and brought the game into being, certain dwarf teams believe they have a lasting right to alter the laws as they choose. The Dwarf Warhammerers, for example, frequently bend the rules of the game and then claim Roselle authorised their illicit amendments. So the Dwarf Warhammerers they had several pictures in the various publications for second edition, and they loved to use as many secret weapons as they could lay their hands on. So that's where we first saw Barrack Farblast. So
He first shows up in second edition. Flint Churnblade with a chainsaw first shows up. The Death Roller first shows up. The Killdozer gets a mention. I think the Chaos Seesaw is another one that gets a mention. A cannon is actually something that also gets a mention. So the fact is, the Dwarf Warhammerers used to use all kinds of crazy weapons and shenanigans to try to win their games of Blood Bowl. And I think this is what the Dwarf Warhammerers, the Dwarf team, is leaning towards. Yeah, I think now that we've got this Dwarf team, they're only a very small number of teams that can get devious skills on a primary that are built for hitting others. Now, there are some others. I mean, Chaos Dwarves have Hobgoblins with devious on primary. Some Skaven have devious on their line rats. Chaos Renegades have devious, but other than that they're a bit unique, and I wonder whether that's the angle that they're going to lean into. Millsy, what do you think?
Bring back the Killdozer. Bring back the Killdozer. I'm all for it. Yeah, like you said, the Dwarf Warhammerers were known as being a very devious team, so why not give them access? And well, if they've given them access, are they back? I'd love to see everyone's talking about how the latest editions of Dwarves have had this massive nerf. Are we waiting for some shenanigans to come in maybe an updated rulebook or an updated spike coming soon?
My only comment there would be, why don't we have a bomber or a loony as a rostered position instead of having to rely on star players?
Yeah,
Ooh, this is true.
I want to read a couple of did you knows from various places. Evil Nut of the Asgard Ravens is still the holder of one of the more unlikely NAF records. From 2469 to 2474, over a period of 40 games, he set off 113 traps without sustaining so much as a scratch. In fact, the Ravens got so used to Nut's good fortune that their opening play in every game was to have him wander around the pitch, setting off spear traps, opening pits, and making the arena safe for his teammates. Nut finally met his end when the Warhammerers went for broke and mined half the pitch with explosives. It wrecked their entire arena, killed 7 of their players, and brought down the wrath of the NAF. But the Warhammerers were still happy with their choice. There's no nut too tough for us to crack, boasted a spokesman for their owners. Another Did You Know has the Dwarf Hammerers bringing a searchlight, like a massive big light, to the game to play against the Darkside Cowboys, and it ruined their throwing game because they couldn't see in the bright light. And it says the Warhammerers made an incredible 15 interceptions and ran away with the game.
So what's old is new again. I do love the fact, and I'd be over the moon to get an update on dwarves, and I'm thinking a lot of the other dwarf coaches out there, with the long in the tooth dwarf coaches, might be looking for something. Whether or not they're happy that the current edition of dwarves are going to turn into these devious, spiteful sorts of things, I'm not sure, but couldn't hurt to give them a go, could it?
Well, I'm interested to see how it plays. I'm interested to see some dwarf teams with some devious skills on them. Yeah, I think there's some potential there, definitely. I also think that it's a massive market for some of these older second edition star players. Bring back Flint Churnblade. I want to see that.
Since they don't have access to Helmet Wolf anymore.
Doesn't Helmet play for everyone? Or is he doesn't do?
Old World Classic,
yeah.
baby.
That's it. There you go. Yeah, there I was banging on about how much I love that they've been shafted.
He got cut. He got cut.
Boom, boom. Love it.
Hey, speaking of not getting cut, look, it's time for us to bring our painting competition to a close. We have been running a painting competition for Jester Prince, on behalf of Jester Prince, and the winner will receive one of the beautiful Terra Australis base teams, which has amazing miniatures in it. So we have koalas and kookaburras, the cockatoos, kangaroos, and a yowie big guy. We're going to award that.
Frill-neck lizards?
Yeah, and frill-neck lizards. Yeah, we're going to award that. But before we do, we're going to put up some put some photos of our painters that have entered. We're going to put those entries up and about on our social media, and we want you to tell us who you think should win. So before we announce our winner, yeah, we want you to tell us who you think is deserving of winning. And then we will announce the team. And if you don't think you're going to win, maybe because you didn't enter, then why don't you grab yourself a Terra Australis team yourself, because they're going to look amazing with paint.
Yeah, and I think with that might bring our little podcast to a close. We do need to keep this one rather short because bit of a spoiler alert. We may have a really high-profile person that we're going to interview next month. Now, I'm not going to tell you who this is, but I will tell you that if it wasn't for this person, there would not be a Blood Bowl world champion at the moment. So read into that what you may.
Yeah, we haven't had anybody from online Blood Bowl on our podcast, have we?
We have not.
We can interview Killtrain anytime we like.
Actually, that's true. We have had Killtrain mention how he was going at the Great Barrier Reef too. But yeah, he was in the World Challenge.
Yeah.
I'm sure we can line him up and ask the question at the very least.
All right. What's our sign off? What's our finish?
I've got to stick with my tried and true win or the casualty bin. So, boys and girls, if you can't get yourself a win, make sure you get plenty in the bin.
Of the enemies or of yours?
As
if
long
you're
as
playing
you're
Millsy.
having fun. I'm used to it. It doesn't matter which way they go for me. Unless I'm playing Ken Dunford, and then it has to be his.
Yeah, I just want to encourage you to, not be too afraid to be considering putting on a tournament or helping out with a league. I just want to encourage you. It takes all types, and we are a big community, and we do need people to muck in and make this community as strong as we can. And we are going to get new coaches as a result of this new edition. So, yeah, do have a good hard think. Is that something you could potentially do? And we want to try and break that down and make it not scary. Or maybe you are an experienced tournament organizer, and maybe you're thinking about having something streamed at your event. I hope this episode's been helpful for you. I certainly am looking forward to getting into Blood Bowl 25 with my first tournament attendance between now and when the next episode drops.
And unfortunately, I won't be making it to any events in the very near future, but I'll sign off with just a call to prayer to let everyone stop discriminating against those who wish to show their devotion to Nuffle with a prayer. Prayers to Nuffle belong in the game. They're a good bit of fun. Just let it happen, please.
Boo, boo, in the bin.
Not the casualty bin.
No, the prayers to Nuffle can get in the casualty bin. That's fine.
They're way too cheap now. I love it. Shenanigans abound. Alrighty, I think that's a wrap. I think we got everything in that we're going to need, and that will edit up nicely. Yeah. Now,
Sounds
Babs, our practice tomorrow, is it still on?
Yeah, mate. I have literally spent an hour putting my team together, ready to go. So I've put pretty much every single skill all my OWA have on their bases, ready to go.
Oh, I was going to say, because I spent literally all of 3 minutes designing my team.
So what's your OWA list, Babs?
Well, here's the bizarre thing. I don't have a single human lineman.
Don't?
No.
Wow.
I'm disappointed, bro.
I have Skrog Snowpelt.
I see your Skrog and I raise you a Varag.
Bring it. They don't stack,
Yeah,
still.
I got some thick skull, I'll be fine.
Wilt's there from Sheffield, is that right?
Put me on the spot, hang on.
Watford? Sheffield?
They're all English. Isn't that just the same place anywhere in England?
No.
No, definitely not.
Definitely not.
I don't remember.
Okay. Well,
I should, because they were talking about which town they were in. Ashford, isn't it? No? Yes? No? You can edit this so
Well,
we sound like we know what we're talking about.
No idea.
if you want to know for certain, actually give their podcast a look. New Dice, please. We've recently appeared on one of their episodes. I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but if you look in their show notes, it'll say that they're interviewing the Down Underworld denizens, and hopefully in there they tell you exactly where they're from. So,
Mental blank. Who's the guy with the ballzooka?
Boomer Esiason,
No.
is
No, no,
it?
no. Boomer Esiason
Barrack
is
Far.
the bomb thrower. Barrack Farblast. Nah, we'll have plenty of time. Plenty of time. We put a clock on, we'll be easily done by then.
Oh, well, I will be. I don't know how you'll be going.
That's got to make the cut. That's got to get in there. Down Underworld Denizens discusses games, workshops, games, and products such as Blood Bowl, Gutter Bowl, Dungeon Bowl, and Crunch. We also discuss other fantasy football board games and concepts from other companies such as Dread Ball, Guild Ball, Grind, Elf Ball, Myth and Goal, Blitz Bowl, Chaos Ball, Monsters of the Midway, and Feud Ball. We discuss products and services such as miniatures or software made by producers suitable for several of these board games. Games Workshop terms and conditions in point 2.1 state they grant the user the non-exclusive right to use their authorized intellectual property for broadcasting and other media-related activities such as commentary and opinion pieces, blogs, and other similar informational and descriptive purposes. Down Underworld Denizens respects and honors these terms.